Hello, everybody, and welcome to Commodity Culture, where our goal is to make you a better investor in the commodities space. My name is Jesse Day. Before we dive in, standard disclaimer: nothing here is investment advice. Do your own due diligence. And today's guest is the CEO of Dryden Gold, an exploration company focused on the discovery of high-grade gold mineralization with a 100% interest in a dominant strategic land position in the Dryden district of Northwestern Ontario. It's Trey Wasser. Welcome to the show.
Hey Jesse, how you doing?
Doing great, thank you. It's awesome to have you on. And I want to get started with your current outlook on the gold space, starting with the metal itself. Obviously, we reached nominal all-time highs in US dollar terms at the end of 2023. Gold has since consolidated between 2000 and 2050. Where do you think it goes from here? And what are the catalysts that could take us higher here in 2024?
Well, Jesse, it's a great question. Get my crystal ball out. I actually have one in the other room. I should have brought it in. But the Look, I think that everything is lining up fundamentally very well for gold. I think it's you've had, of course, a lot of guests on your show here. My good friend Andy Scheckman, and there is some serious financial problems which just seem to be getting worse in the U.S. And that spilling over into banking crises, and I don't know what the next black swan event will be, but and geopolitically, problems, and while I don't really think that war is something that you will see reactions of gold, but that's generally not a long-term fundamental driver. But really what happened here, and I know other of your guests have talked about it, is when Russia invaded Ukraine, the United States put these sanctions on Russia. And and while they haven't been effective and they haven't really been enforced, what they did do was, they weaponized the U.S. dollar, which, ever since the deal was done with the Saudis back in the 70s to make the U.S. dollar the reserve currency, gold and oil, the major commodities trade worldwide in the U.S. dollar. Well, by weaponizing the U.S. dollar, what they've done is starting to drive a lot of countries away from the dollar. I mean, certainly our geopolitical enemies or adversaries like China and Russia, of course, they're looking for alternatives to the U.S. dollar. And well, from a liquidity standpoint, it's very hard. The Chinese yuan will never replace the dollar on a worldwide basis. There actually is no other currency that has the liquidity to do that. So while I don't think it'll ever, at least in my lifetime, I don't think we'll see the dollar going away from being the reserve currency, but we are seeing a trend where countries are looking at alternatives, and one of them certainly is gold. And that's why you've seen such big central bank buying, and that's been the big, I think, support for gold here. What's going to cause it that next leg up and breakout, if you will? We might do on this is I think I did bring some charts along. So just looking at the chart of gold, there's a few things, and while I'm not a real technical person as far as the charts go, I do look at them and use them and follow some guys that are pretty good with them. And one thing they say in technical analysis that double tops and double bottoms are rare. And if you look at the chart of gold, and then I just have a 5-year chart pulled up, so we're looking at going back to a high that was set in 2020, right? During COVID initially, and then we had another top set in 2022, and then again in 2023. And we really, I mean, in my opinion, I think we've broken out of that range and are kind of consolidating right at that top. So I think that this 2000 level is starting to prove to be a base that that will be a base for gold to propel quite a bit higher. I think maybe as high as $3,000 an ounce.
Well, let's turn now to the gold mining space because it sure does look undervalued at the moment, especially when we consider gold is hovering near all-time highs on a sustained basis right now. We were talking about it before we hit record here. I'd like to hear your view on the gold mining space and what you think it'll take to bridge that gap in valuation.
Well, certainly, at this point, as far as investors go, there's just almost zero interest in the mining space right now. It's a very difficult market, and I think it's again. When I listen to some of your other interviews, there's a myriad of reasons. Some will point to Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies as taking money away. Certainly, this froth in the AI driven magnificent seven in the stock market with these blow off kind of moves in stocks like Meta and in just a few stocks, while the underlying market is really fairly weak. Some of it is just the speculative interest has gone away, but this is a period, and while people think that inflation is good for gold, it's not always good for gold stocks because the mining costs go up, and right now you've had some kind of geopolitical problems with gold mining, where Panama has shuttered a huge project down there. You've seen Mexico getting tougher and tougher on their regulations and making mining more difficult, and accidents with SSR mining's collapsing leach pad, and so in a time when nobody really cares, the news couldn't get any worse either. But I did bring another chart. This chart is the GDX compared to the continuous contract for gold, the GOLD, the futures contract. And what this shows is obviously when this chart is going down, it's showing that the stocks are weak compared to gold, and when it's going up, it's improving compared to gold. And then with this chart up on top, what I've done is I've put the actual gold price alone, so we could look at a few things. And you can go back and into 2020 and see a bottom that was put in down there. It's kind of between the volume line and the spike down line. It's kind of hard to see it, but it's right in there, about the same level as the low that was set in October of 2022, and we're about that same level now. So on a historic basis, again, you see a pretty good support. This is a level where typically the stocks, it's the weakest point for them. But something that's very interesting about it now, and it kind of drive home just how weak the stocks are. If you look at the, for example, the decline from the high in 2022, that was set around April, and down, and from around 2010 or 2050, I can't remember the exact number there, but then all the way down to 1600 in the gold price. And so if you look at the chart up above compared to the chart that compares the valuation comparison down below, that typically the stocks get weak when gold gets weak, and when gold gets strong, the stocks get strong, and sometimes will get even stronger relative to the price of gold. But what's very unusual now is here we are back down at this very low point for this ratio, and and yet gold has been flat to rising over this period. So you've had a real divergence there of the gold to the gold stocks, and I'm not sure I can actually explain that, but I think it even speaks further towards how undervalued the gold stocks are in this market here, because the price of gold has actually held up fairly well.
And you mentioned Andy Schectman. He's been on the show a number of times, and one of the main threads he discusses is the rise of the BRICS nations and the possibility of them moving on to some form of gold-backed currency, whether that's through trade in between those nations themselves or whether they actually introduce a gold-backed currency within their monetary systems. I was wondering what your thoughts are there. Obviously, we see a lot of escalating conflict and geopolitical shifts. What role do you think gold will play in the global monetary system up ahead?
I think when things geopolitically uh, and you have financial problems, gold. People start to realize again that gold is money, and trades like money. As far the BRICS nations and their moving away from the dollar is what I was speaking about before. That's more, I believe, more in reaction to the U.S. weaponizing the dollar against Russia, and these countries realizing the same thing could happen to them, and that maybe there could be alternatives, so that everything didn't have to flow. All the funds as dollars obviously end up flowing at one point or another through a U.S. bank or the U.S. Treasury, and so. But I think people always need to remember that while part of their trade and stuff could be done that way, there's just not a lot of enough liquidity. I don't think can be put together by those nations to just totally replace the dollar. But I think gold will is just more of a thought of in times like this as money again, and I think that's what you're seeing happen with the central bank buying, and with a lot of just smart people, I think, accumulating gold.
Well, I do want to shift to Dryden Gold in just a moment, but first, you've had an illustrious career in the mining industry. I'm wondering, what are the major challenges you currently see facing the gold mining sector and the mining sector in general, and how can they be overcome?
I mean, you have a difficult market. A wise man told me, it can always get worse, and it seems to, every day we wake up and the on the mining side, as I said, with all the bad news and things, it just seems like it's never ending bad news. But look, I think we certainly are. The major companies don't have the pipelines for gold, their gold production, for replacing their reserves, and so there'll always be a need for discovery, but discovery is very hard, and it's not a lot of success out there. But I think that one thing we've learned, and we did it with Ely Gold, and some of one of my good advisors, Darren Wagner, same thing. He's done it with a couple of companies, most recently Balmoral, but he also had a company called West Timmins Mining, and both companies he sold to larger companies, and that's a key. Is you want to be putting together a company, a package, if you will, that's attractive to a major company. It's not rocket scientist. The exit strategy for every junior is to sell out. It's not to, I mean, there is a rare instance where that junior can then become a development company and build the mine, and doesn't doesn't happen very often, and even less often is it successful. Uh, so from our standpoint and what we're doing at Dryden, when we start talking about that, is putting to a company together that both from the land package, from the corporate structure, and from the way that we are running the exploration program, we're tailoring it to something that a large company will be attracted to, assuming we find the gold. But we're pretty happy with what we're seeing so far.
Well, let's shift to Dryden Gold. And for those who are not familiar with the company, you gave us a bit of a teaser there. Could you maybe expand on that and give us a bit of a more in-depth overview of Dryden Gold?
Yeah, well, we started this company privately about uh, uh, 2 years ago, and kind of on the heels of the success of selling illegal royalties, and I had a friend, a prospective friend, Mike Tremblay, who had a piece of property up in this Dryden district, who talked to me about it, and they were doing some work with a company called Manitou Gold, who also had some property, and so I did my due diligence and found out that another good friend of mine, Jason Jessup, had done some work up there, and I talked to some of the geologists who'd done some of the work for Manitou up there. So I looked at it and I thought, well, geez, the Trans-Canada Highway runs right through it. It's 2 hours south of Red Lake. Dryden is a great town for mining. A lot of the people who work at Red Lake and the contractors and stuff are out of Dryden. Uh, it's got railroad, it's got highways running through it. It's also a big logging area, so where historically a lot of this ground was heavily forested and inaccessible, a lot of it's been logged off now, and so we've got logging roads or trails, kind of giving us access to a big property package. And it's an area that it was mined in the at the turn of the century. And at that time, when they made the first discoveries there, they called it the New Klondike. Give you an idea of it. I mean, they were finding just some super high grade gold, of which Manitou did drill one hole that, kind of, it's amazing. Like 53,000 grams per ton gold over a half a meter in a quartz vein. So, with that, what we did is like I said, did what we did at Ely was consolidate this land package. The reason that the mining never really was successful there is, I think in the camp where we are, there were like 12 mines historically just in this gold rock camp, and all of them were run by different companies. They all built their own mills, and they got down to about 100 feet or 100 meters, and hit the water, and one at a time, just kind of folded up. It's an orogenic gold system, so it is difficult, kind of like Red Lake, and so where they didn't have the drilling and the technology we have today, they could. It was difficult for them to chase these high grade shoots just with mining.
Very fascinating. Could you talk to us about some of the main catalysts that you see up ahead, growth catalysts for the company that you think investors should be paying attention to right now?
Well, what we've done is we've in this camp, which has really been the main part of it that was owned by Goldcorp for many years. In fact, going way back to the Dickinson mining, when Rob McEwen really formed Goldcorp. This property was in there, but Goldcorp never did any work on it and sold it to Manitou. So with this property consolidation, we have put all these claims together for the first time, and it runs along a major deformation zone, the Manitou to Norwich, similar to the Porcupine Fault in Timmins, and high grade gold from top to bottom. We've put together 50 kilometers of strike on this deformation zone, and now we're doing a systematic drill program. We were able to go public in late last year and actually started trading on January 10th. So it's a great property, and we put together a team. Maura Kolb, who's our president, spent a lot of time at Red Lake. She ran the exploration team there. She understands the system. She lives right in Dryden. And our VP of exploration, Anna Hicken, worked under Maura at Red Lake. So they're a very good complementary team, Maura being a structural geologist and Anna being a geochemical background. So we've got a great team. They're putting together. So as I said before, what we've put together is a property package that a major would covet in a very excellent camp with excellent infrastructure that's just literally been overlooked. And now we've put together a team who is putting an exploration program together based on the principles and the guidelines that a major company would do, because that's their background.
Well, I want to talk timeline in just a moment, but one thing we should note is that you're currently trading on the TSX-V. Are there plans to trade on the OTC markets in the US as well?
Yeah, in fact, that's probably, I will say, imminent at this point. The filings are all in with the OTC QB, and we're just waiting for their final approval, and that should be within a few weeks here.
Excellent. So lay out a timeline for us for everything we've discussed so far. Walk us through the major stages for the company moving forward from here to obviously, hopefully getting acquired by a major in the future.
We really like the Great Bear model, to be acquired for $1.5 billion without ever even publishing a resource. Yeah, but seriously, it's not going to be easy. I'm not going to kid your viewers on this, but we were able to raise $5 million. We had lead orders from Peter Schiff's Europac fund, which is run by Adrian Day. Rob McEwen was the lead order. Eric Sprott's been in this deal since it was private. We got just a Delbert Capital put in a large charity flow through piece into the 5 million. So we've got an excellent shareholder base, and so we're comfortable that even in this rough market, we'll be able to continue to raise money for an exploration program. But meanwhile, with the 5 million, we actually, with some private money, started drilling in November. So we actually put out our first drill results yesterday. And what we're doing is focusing on about a 20-mile area of the 50 miles of strike length that we have in the camp there. This is more in the center of it. We call it the Gold Rock Camp. And it's about 20 kilometers. About 7 kilometers of that is on patented ground. So we were able to drill without having to go through the full permitting process. And we'll continue to do that. So we actually had our first drill results come out yesterday. We've got a very, as I said, strategic drill program whereby we're very lucky here in that the mineralization is really at surface. The veins can be traced. The gold, even the high grade intercepts are, we drilled 13 holes and it was 1,600 meters. So average just a little over 100 meters a hole. So we're able to work on strike length first, and that's what we're doing. And then we have, we worked a little bit more, and we proved up a strike length of 1.5 kilometers with this first drill program. And and we did a little bit more work on the high grade zone on the one vein system. We have three parallel vein systems in there, but we got a very nice high grade hit of just under an ounce, 26 grams over 3 meters, and that's on the second parallel vein system. So, we've made a new discovery over there, basically of another what the girls think are another of these high grade shoots. And and then the drilling we just completed is on the third vein system that's called Elora. And Elora had quite a bit of historic mining on it, especially to the north. We're drilling more to the south on the patents, but very excited about what we're seeing there. And with the last couple of phases in this spring program here, we'll step out about 2 kilometers further south for proving up more strike length. And we on one of our step out holes, about 400 meters to the south on this probe that we announced yesterday, we will drill around that with Mora and Anna think that's another high grade shoot down there. So we're doing some drilling on that a little deeper, but we're starting around this core that we have from this historic high grade. And what Manitou did that was very beneficial for us is they hit this high grade shoot or this high grade intercept. And it ended up being there's a halo mineralization there too. So it's the full intercept was like 3,497 grams over 8.5 meters. And we've proved up that, and then they went in and did a lot of drilling right around that. I mean, most of their drilling was done within 200 meters around that one hole. And a lot of it was very successful. And so we really have a kind of a brownfields section there that we're working on and expanding out. So we're expanding strike length, and we're expanding to the all three vein systems. And I think as we prove that up and show that we have 3 high grade veins there, not one, and that it runs for kilometers, not meters, it'll start to be. I think that'll be a good catalyst for the stock. Should come out of this final drill program this spring.
Well, investors also love to see management aligned with shareholders, and you have pretty high insider ownership, I believe, between 17 and 18%. We'd love to see that much skin in the game. Talk to us about the importance of management having such a stake in the company, and will that continue in the future? Is management looking to buy more shares as the company advances?
Yeah, unfortunately for me, they wouldn't let me put money into the RTO financing, but otherwise, I've put money into every financing that this company's done. I'll point out that all of that insider stock is all locked up over a period of 3 years here from the RTO filing. And so, I think that's a key. I mean, there's no question, none of us are pulling any punches about what our ultimate goal is and what the exit strategy is for shareholders. And obviously that's, I would, if I could be buying more stock right now, it would, I think the next time we do an offering, it won't be in this filing we did that we were rushed to get it done by the end of the year, and having insiders participate in it was just not going to slow us down too much. So we, but I would continue to participate as long as we're seeing the kind of success we're seeing, like we announced yesterday.
Great. Well, Trey, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a very enlightening conversation. I will put a link in the description below to the Dryden Gold website as well as social media for people who want to check that out. It's been an honor, and thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your knowledge with the audience.
Thanks, Jesse. It was worth getting up early for.
Commodity Culture is a series on commodities and natural resources. If you would like to see more, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification so you're always up to date with the latest episodes.